Hey folks, Rue here. Just wanted to let you know that this episode of Ruel's Running Podcast is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get a special life insurance rates. I don't know why I said especial, but Health IQ can save customers up to 33% because physically active people have a 56% lower risk of heart disease, 20% lower risk of cancer, and 58% lower risk of diabetes compared to people who are inactive. So, what does that mean? It means later on in the show, I'll tell you a little bit more, but just feel rest assured that Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like yourself. You know, you, the runner, the cyclist, the strength trainer, you know, the acrobat, the gymnast, somebody who's just active and, you know, takes care of themselves. You know, they want to take that data into consideration so that you can maximize your life insurance buying capabilities. That's the way I'm going to put it, and I'm sticking to it. And remember, to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/RUEL. That's healthiq.com/RUEL. Or mention the promo code RUEL. That's RUEL when you talk to a Health IQ agent. On with the show.
Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
There was a dream a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way. If you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast, it is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. What's going on in your world? God. You know, everybody, glad that you're here. Glad that I've got, you know, a handful of you to listen to what I have to say. A lot of times it has nothing to do with anything important, but I'm glad you're here anyways. Yeah, high five. That was a weak high five. Try it again. A little better. We got to work on that. Anyways, guys, if you are a new listener, my condolences. If you are a return listener, what is up? First thing I want to say is that people are strange. Yes, indeed. I caught a guy at a restaurant picking his nose at his table with his index finger, and the middle finger right next to that utilized index finger was missing a part of it. So he had lost half of that middle finger. It was missing for whatever reason. I don't think he lost it that day, but at some point earlier in his life. So it was just, you know, it was kind of doubly gnarly seeing this guy kind of hunched over, picking his nose, and his hand didn't look quite right because he was missing part of his middle finger, which was, yeah. And people are weird. And the other day, who am I kidding? It was today. Saw a guy in his red sports car, windows rolled up, no tint in the front part of his car, but I could clearly see him. He was kind of like losing his shit. He was as if he was really upset and trying to make a point. I think he was on a phone call, but he was really like, his head was shaking and his body was kind of jerking. I thought he was having maybe a kind of a seizure or something, or maybe he was on drugs. But eventually he seemed to have calmed down. If he was on a call, it looked like his opportunity to talk had ended, and it was the next person's turn to talk. And while he did that, he opened up his door, I guess just to let some air in, because maybe he was hot, or maybe he farted in his car and he needed to air it out. So, people are weird. People are really weird. And I am too. How about you? So I'm kind of still dealing with some sort of virus. The other day I went to the doctors. No, why don't I say the doctors? The doctor, like it was plural or possessive. I went to see a doctor and ruled out strep, left them with enough throat material for them to supposedly run some labs on to see if they could grow bacteria with my stuff, which may indicate a bacterial infection. I don't get it because, do they narrow down when there's a bacterial infection? Do they narrow down certain bacterias, or because my understanding is that we all have bacteria, and what makes, say, if it was a bacterial infection any different from just your everyday run-of-the-mill bacteria that you just kind of walk around life with? I don't know. Anyways, so ruled out strep, didn't have a fever, left them with some more throat substance to do that certain lab, and ruled out any sort of chest stuff because I was feeling like I'm on the verge of bronchitis. Just don't want to wake up in the middle of the night with some sort of like bronchial spasm. I'm not on any medication. They sent me off. They said if things don't improve, come back and see us. And in the meantime, feel free to take Mucinex. This is not a sponsor. This is not an ad for Mucinex. And as I speak, I'm losing my throat, my voice. So I'm left with the froggy effect, right? The froggy sounding throat. Oh boy. And I don't have any coffee with me at the moment to kind of soothe my achy throat. So I'm going to have to pause. 1 second. So I muted the mic and I turned on the air. I think the air was getting pretty gnarly, and all that does is now it adds some white noise in the background of the recording. I apologize if that tends to get to you, but I promise you'll feel right at home. It's amazing how much white noise you have at home and in the office day to day, isn't it? Unless you live in a place that you don't have a lot of day-to-day distractions, but the humming. There's a humming of the refrigerator and the freezer. That's just enough white noise that you live with day to day that you fail to realize exists until you lose electricity, and then suddenly, wow! Even the sound of either the air conditioner or the furnace or the fan. Yes, I know it's gas, but still, there's still some electrical piece to set things off, low-level humming of other devices that may be sleeping or you think is sleeping, like I don't know, a cable box, or maybe your internet router, or maybe even the TV. Who knows, right? I have a water heater dispenser, or a hot water dispenser. So whenever I top that thing off, it has to reheat the water or heat up the water, so it kind of spins and makes a level of noise. And that's just what's in the house. But how about stuff like outside? Maybe the power lines, maybe the power poles, maybe is the neighbors. There's noise emitting, coming from where your neighbor's at. So it's amazing when all that shuts down. Growing up back in Guam, whenever it was typhoon time and the power would be knocked off, that's basically what you got. And if anybody's ever been in the eye of a storm, the level of calmness that occurs for a brief period of time, you really feel it and hear and sense it. The wind is gone, the rain is gone, and all you've got is just like a break in all of the chaos. And with power out, you get a little of that effect. So anyways, that's all to say. That's my way of covering the fact that I have produced some white noise in the background, which is a result of a running engine that in a vehicle that I'm sitting in, and the air that is being pumped out of the vents. The vents. So that's my intro, and I'm sticking to it. What's going on, guys? What's going on in your world? Anything cooking? We like to start off the show these days with talking about food. And I'm trying to think. Yes, I made some chicken bone broth recently. As a matter of fact, it was last night. The Instant Pot was cleaned out, and it was really easy for me to throw in some onions, some celery, and some carrots in the pot. Put in a big slab of beef bone and some leftover bones from a previous day's roast chicken. A lot of herbs, a lot of salt, cracked black pepper, some spices, and put the thing up, measured about 10 cups of water, but that includes the mass of the bones in the pot as well. So there you have it, a little cap full of apple cider vinegar. And the Instant Pot, I set it for manual at 90 minutes. After 90 minutes time, it depressurizes naturally and it stays warm throughout the night. And the next morning, ta-da, twist open the Instant Pot cover and move things around a bit, and wonderful, delicious, hot bone broth. That was done. But before that, I had worked on some chili. My wife wanted to try something different, so she found a recipe for sort of a white bean chicken chili. And I think it's awesome, and I think the most awesome part of the chili is the spices. And essentially what it is chopped onion, chopped garlic, right? And what else did I have going on in there? So this is a non-NSNG recipe, so don't freak out. There's a little bit of flexibility in the house when it comes to certain members of the family. So there was some drained white beans, and there was some canned corn. And then there was maybe 4 cups of broth. Pulled that out of our bone broth stash. And a shredded whole chicken, which is where the bones for the bone broth came from. And what else? The thing called for more beans, but I said, you know what? Go easy on the beans. Not because of gas issues, but, just, if you're concerned about carb intake, maybe just go with less beans. So we went with less amount of beans that the recipe called for. And as far as the corn, it's like this recipe isn't gonna last, and you might as well consider it, a once in a while thing. Whole kernel corn. Yes, corn is a grain, but it's not like you're getting a processed corn flour. It's a whole different deal. Your body still has to contend with the shell of the kernel corn and gotta crap that out. So, oh, excuse me, that was horrible. What else went in this recipe? Some coconut cream and some coconut milk, and threw in a touch of sort of this chili powder blend, which was basically chili powder and cumin. I'm not sure what else was in that blend, but made sure that it got nice and stinky, just like a good chili should. And ta-da! It was very much like, when I grew up, there was this chicken corn soup, and it was nice on stormy days, like when there are typhoons. Often served in at gatherings in a little styrofoam cup. Yes, styrofoam isn't the healthiest of things for the environment, but that's just how we rolled. And a dash of Tabasco, and it was awesome. It too had a little coconut milk, and it was awesome. Having that with some lumpia. If you know what lumpia is, you're probably a big fan. But if you don't know what lumpia is, look it up. I've never talked about doing a homemade lumpia and on an episode, but one day I may. Bone broth, chicken chili, as an alternative to a soup that she'd like to take with her to the office. So the idea was, with that chicken chili, she would top it off with some chopped avocado. But in reality, she'd probably just, have avocado while she's having the soup or the chili. And awesome. What else was cooking? I'm still doing the omelets. The omelets still are limited to mushrooms and diced tomatoes. And I really enjoy cooking that stuff. Burp. Yeah, so that's what's cooking. Let me know what's cooking in your world. I'd like to try some new stuff. And if any of the stuff that I talk about sounds interesting, then I may share a recipe or two. But until then, I'm not sharing anything. Awesome. Hey folks, so a little bit of family chat, maybe some exercise chat. The other day, I have a lot of these other day stories, but the other day, I was hanging out with the boys, and I'm not trying to exclude my daughter, I just happen to have the boys with me, and had them work on some homework, but I made sure that I did a certain amount of homework before I told them to drop everything and meet me outside, because we were going to pull a tire. That's right. And so we went outside, and my oldest son is pretty anxious about pulling the tire because he's done it once before, and it isn't a long session pulling the tire, but it's enough to get them to do some work based on their abilities. For my oldest son, it just meant, I think, like, I'm going to estimate maybe 100 feet in length. Had him walk the length of 100 feet and walk the other direction. So they're pulling a tire. This is an old tire that I had on our van. After I changed out a couple of wheels, I told the guy at the tire place to leave me one. Originally, I wanted to keep one so that I could just have something to hit sticks with, my rattan sticks as a weapons training. And but then later on, I realized I could double up its usage by pulling it for some training. So built a harness and built the tow line and all of that good stuff. And now, I can do that kind of training. But my sons, I want to have them try out the exercise. So I had my son pull the tire about 100 feet in length and distance, and then walk the other distance back. And then after he kind of warmed up with the out and back, to try to jog the distance out and back. And then that was pretty much it. And you could see the effort, the struggle that he has to go through to actually pull it. So that was enough. And then for the younger boy, I just had him do a single out and back. So approximately 200 feet total. And that was that. Then they were done. And once I removed the harness from them and had them run without the tire pull, they could sense how light they had become and how much easier it was for them to enjoy the run without it. So they were done there, and then I wrapped the thing around my waist, and then I did several out and backs just to get used to it, because it's still a kind of a new thing for me. And I'm hoping that it can be beneficial to my training, so that when I'm out doing the next trail event, that I'd be okay. And it was kind of interesting to tug a tire along. And so that's that. That is exercise, and that is a little bit of family chat.
Health IQ rated 9.6 out of 10 on Trustpilot. Customers love them. Ryan Hall, the fastest marathoner in American history and the only United States athlete to break the 1 hour time for the half marathon. This is what he has to say about Health IQ. Quote, "It's perfect because it's made for people like me with a healthy, active lifestyle," unquote. The lower heart rates that many pro athletes have can sometimes negatively affect insurance rates. Hall liked the fact that Health IQ used this active lifestyle as an asset in getting a good life insurance rate rather than it being a detriment. He commented that he appreciated how Health IQ made the process easy and simple for him, given how limited his time already was. Health IQ is the fastest growing life insurance company with over $5 billion in coverage. So, like saving money on your car insurance for being a good driver, Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/Ruel or mention the promo code RUEL when you talk to a Health IQ agent today.
Anyways, I realized that a couple episodes back when I did the race report. I don't like race reports because, I don't like that what I did was a race report, because it really was not much of a race, coming in dead last. But in that run report, I kind of went through it very vanilla, I felt, and after I published it, I realized there were some things that I didn't talk about that I wanted to, but press publish, and it is what it is. And so just to sort of touch on some things regarding that last trail run I did at Lake Chabot. As mentioned, it was a dead last finish. I didn't break the cutoff as far as I'm concerned. I missed cutoff, I don't know, maybe 6 minutes or something like that, 8 minutes, but nonetheless, I finished the course. I finished the distance, and that to me was awesome. I didn't want to start off the year's worth of events that I'm planning to participate in. I didn't want to start it off with a DNF or anything sort of like not meeting a cutoff and having to settle for a lower distance event. I mean, in a larger picture, in the larger scheme of things, I should just be thankful that I'm able to be out running and doing what I do when I'm able to do it. You know, there's a lot of people who don't and can't, even if they wanted to. So, shame on me. But I think, you know, it's just an individual thing. It's something about my individual running. Everyone has that right and ability to critique, criticize, and to desire, right? Anyways, so what I didn't mention before was just some things that I thought, you know, were kind of weird. You know, I ran the one weird thing happened. I ran with gaiters. My wife bought me some gaiters as a gift, and I thought they were kind of cool. You know, then I didn't have to worry about getting gravel and debris in my shoe, which has happened in the past. You know, and when the conditions get kind of hard for me, and whether it's the temperature or the duration, you know, and a combination of things just make me want to quit. You know, every little bit of annoyance makes an impact. So little pieces of gravel, you know, unless, you know, you're so beaten up that you're numb to everything. But, you know, in the past, I've certainly had to remind myself about little things that I just can't afford to let get to me. Things like having gravel in my shoe. So with these gaiters, I was able to protect myself from getting stuff in my shoe, and it was awesome. But what I didn't realize and count on was, for some odd reason, the insole on my right shoe shifted around a bit. It shifted so much that in the last, I want to say, what is it? The last 7 miles, maybe the last 8 or 7 miles, my insole on my right shoe shifted backwards. So, and I realized it when my Achilles area, the back of my ankles, had something kind of pressed up against it, and it wasn't the back part of my shoe. There was the heel of the insole. And it was like the gaiters did everything to prevent things from getting in my shoe, but I didn't take into account that something in my shoe was trying to get out, which was that. And so I had to unfasten the gaiter and pull. Surprisingly, it was kind of tough to get it out, and I was just too exhausted to deal with sitting down and untying my shoe and all that stuff. I just did my best and eventually yanked that insole out of my right shoe, curled it up, stuck it in my pocket, and ran without an insole on my right shoe for the remainder of the race. It did feel somewhat weird, but again, it was like I was too exhausted and learned real quickly to just not give a crap. So that was that. That was something that I wanted to bring up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anything to commemorate these little weird things that happened along the race. I'm sure there's other stories. There's other things that I failed to bring up, and the more and more days go by, I hope to not forget about them. But it was significant enough. I didn't talk about food, how I ate, what I packed, things that I packed, that I kept with me were a small zip bag of electrolytes. And yes, the aid stations had them, but I just wanted to carry my own, if in case I just needed some in between aid station stops. Fortunately, it wasn't a ridiculously hot day, so there wasn't that much salt that I needed. As a matter of fact, I think there was some griminess I felt over my right shoulder on my back, that I counted as excess salt coming out of my system, unless it was just dust and dirt and I was just imagining things. But I took that as, and people are going to see it the other way as well. But when I feel or see excess salt build up from my sweat and my skin, I don't count it as, oh geez, I need more salt because I'm losing salt. The way I see it is, I have more than enough salt and my body is just removing the extra. That's how I see it. And so the food that I brought in was with me, the things that I brought with me, the electrolyte capsules in a zip bag, another zip bag with a handful or maybe less than a handful of raw almonds. I also brought in a Epic bar. I had 2 Epic bars in my pack. And I had a Hydra Pack, which was, I think, 70... Was it ounces? I forget what the measurement unit is. I'm an idiot. But I had a big old Hydra Pack full of water. And I had a handheld with 2 packets of the plain Generation UCAN Super Starch, diluted in a single handheld. And I had an extra packet of UCAN in my pack. So that was it. It was that. And what I did do at the aid station stops was just kind of see what was all along the tables. Made sure I got water refilled in my handheld. So as I sipped along the fuel in my handheld and I got to the aid stations, I would further dilute what was in there and make sure I had extra fluid, topped off fluids. And I generally didn't get anything on the table. They had these small boiled potatoes. They were really small. They're like the size of maybe half the size of a ping pong ball, if that is even a thing. But they were really small. And I would take a single pretzel, which was also in a different bowl on the aid station table. The straight, short pretzel. I would take a pretzel and I would stab a potato, then dunk that into salt, and I would have that. That's basically water and a single potato and pretzel with salt would be what I would get from the aid station. And I think I was pretty consistent with that. I opted for the potato, yes, which is a starch carb, because I found myself working a little bit extra as I dealt with the injury that I had encountered early on. And I did, at the later half of the race, I grabbed a couple of the goo chomps and stashed them just in case. I like to keep them just in case because, yes, they are a sugar, and I don't ordinarily have a lot of sugar, so I was trying to be strategic with the sugar, and the way I was trying to be strategic with it was, if I knew that I was working extra hard, I knew that I was burning into my glycogen, so what I would do is I would take a little chomp, and I would suck on it, and man, they're disgusting. I don't know if it was just a flavor that I chose, but they're just disgusting. So I would suck on a chomp, and then I would either I would get what I wanted from it and spit it out, or I would just be so grossed out and I would spit it out. And it would help with my mind as well, because sometimes I would feel a little sort of psychologically drained, and then I think sucking on a little bit of sugar kind of messes with my mind enough to kind of get past that mental hump. So I grabbed 2 packs of the goo chomps, and I think I went through less than half of one, and the other I just ditched. And that was pretty much it. And, I think about 2.5 hours into the whole event, I had my first Epic bar, and God, it's so delicious. That was something that I remembered to do after the last, the race previous to that. I got into an Epic bar that I brought one Epic bar, and I got into it later in the event, and I realized this is something that I needed to do early on, just so that I don't starve and not realize that I'm starving. So basically 2.5 hours in, have an Epic bar, and then sometime later on in the race had the second Epic bar. And that was it. That was all of the stuff that I had packed to consume or just to have just in case. So definitely I had consumed all of the super starch throughout the duration. It was, again, about basically 8.5 hours out there. I had eaten 2 Epic bars. I had sucked on a few goo chomps, and I had, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 little tiny balls of baked potato with salt. And yeah, that was it. Awesome. And I guess the last thing I want to bring up was the injury. I had struggled with knee pain last year, and I didn't take care of it. And this year, while out on the event, it was pointed out to me that it was an IT band issue. And this year, my knee gave me problems after the first descent. So there's about a mile flat, and then a small climb, and then a small descent into a canyon, and that's really early on in the race. And after that first descent, my knee started to give me issues. So it was like, I had not gone in 10K, and I was already having signs of problems with my knee. So it was a sign of not being able to enjoy the whole thing. Just had to gut it out. And last year, same event, my knee gave me problems, but it was much later in the event. So, I had everything going against me, it seems, this time around. And I had hoped, with this past year, it being pretty, the conditions being pretty favorable, meaning not muddy and sloshy and super freezing cold, so it was a bit more stable terrain. But what it meant was, and I had hoped to finish better than dead last, like before, and things just didn't go my way to meet that goal. But I did complete the goal of completing the course and wrapping things up. So those things, talking about food, things that I ate, and my injury, and weird stuff like my insole coming out of my shoe. That's stuff that I thought I'd bring up. And I'm currently not prepared with any new footwear for the next event, which I've signed up for. It's in May. It's the Aloni 50K. So if anybody in the Bay Area, or anybody plans to be in the Bay Area and is signed up for that event, I'll probably be watching you from behind because I'll be at the back. But I'm not, I've not gotten anything new for my feet. So, I potentially will be yanking my insole out of my shoe once again in May if I don't do anything new with my footwear. Awesome. So, training's been slow. I had a little bit of momentum to do some regular exercise. I got a little bit under the weather, and the weather had gotten a little bit under itself as well. And things happen day to day. Work's been busy, and still integrating the foam rolling and the stretches to try and make sure that I keep my IT band nice and loose as possible. Not been doing any significant amount of running, except for some tire pulls. And, still got time. So that's that, Love to hear what you guys are up to, what kind of opportunities and challenges you're having to face. I'd love to have that chat, that little bit of conversation. Share, we can do that. And, and if I can work things out, we can have Zoom conversations and chats, and then we could just kind of share that with everybody on the podcast. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, folks, that's pretty much it. And I'm going to wrap up with, I think I'm going to wrap up with something different. I'm going to wrap up with a quote. And yes, in the past, I've wrapped up with quotes before. But I'm going to wrap up with something different. That's kind of like random quotes off of the internet for your listening pleasure. And this quote, I don't know who it's attributed to, but it goes along the line of, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. That's, what the heck does that mean? I suppose what that might mean, it might mean that you shouldn't have to change yourself to seek the approval of others. Or don't make yourself unhappy for others to be happy. Something along those lines. Maybe try not to ruin your life trying to fix someone else's life. But yeah, that's something different for sure. And it sounds kind of cool. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Awesome. Take that, think about that, let that simmer a bit. Just don't set yourself on fire. And we're done. Remember, folks, hug your friends, hug your family, eat something delicious, and go run something. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.